Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to Post Cologne. Today I'm going to give you 10 of the best winter fragrance clones from Lattafa. So let's jump into it. All right, the winter season has arrived once again, and I don't know about you guys, but where I'm from here in Canada, it's friggin' cold, and that means one thing: it is winter fragrance season time. So I got 10 Lattafa fragrances for you that I think are just gonna be absolutely fantastic for those cold days. Nice variety of different scent profiles for you guys and a variety of different price points, so hopefully something for everybody. Links gonna be down in the description if you decide you wanna check any of these fragrances out. Also have some coupon codes, save a few bucks off a variety of different discounters if you decide you wanna shop with them. So let's quit screwing around, let's get into it. All right, kicking things off from the house of Lattafa, we're going with Lattafa His Confession. Now, this fragrance is a hybrid twist on a couple different fragrances. It's got a little bit of that Dior Homme Intense going on to it, a little bit of a Givenchy Gentleman. Some people said that this is a Selena Black Tie clone, but either way, this is an absolutely beautiful, kind of warm, spicy, sweet, powdery style of fragrance with a nice woody dry down, a little wisp of some incense in there. Just an absolutely gorgeous, mysterious, alluring style of fragrance. Opens with a little touch of the sweet mandarin, has some cinnamon in there, a little aromatic lavender that's there, but quickly it moves into this nice powdery style of iris that's there. Nice vanilla, some tonka that's in there as well, and a nice woody base that forms with this. Towards the dry down, it's really more about that iris, that vanilla, those woods that come through. Nice little wisp of some incense just to add some depth and some character to it. And it's just an absolutely gorgeous scent profile, perfect for those cool days. Great date night fragrance, just absolutely beautiful for that winter season. Performance on this pretty decent. Moderate projection for that first hour and a half or so. It is a very intimate style of fragrance, has more of an allure to it than it does kind of an announcement to it, if you will. But it does last on skin fairly well. You got 6-8 hours worth of longevity off my skin. Get some on your clothing, you're definitely gonna push that off. So if you're looking for kind of a sexy, alluring, almost mysterious style of fragrance with a nice powdery iris, some vanilla and some woods in it, you definitely wanna check this one out. That's Lattafa's His Confession. All right, next up from Lattafa, we're going with one I haven't talked about for quite a while, a bit of a hidden gem and a certified cheapie, and that's Lattafa's Anfas Oud. Now, this fragrance is a twist on the Amouage Interlude Man and could be a little bit challenging for some people, but if you're like me and you love a good kind of like ambery, smoky, woody style of fragrance that has a really great spice profile and just a little kiss of vanilla, you're really gonna like this one. Opens up with a great spice medley, some nutmeg that comes through, some saffron, a little hint of some oud and some leather, with a just absolutely beautiful kind of balsamic, sweet, churchy style of incense that gives us a really nice kind of smoky, mysterious sort of vibe, and it works really great with those spices. As you get towards the dry down, a lot of this amberiness comes through, adds some nice texture to it, works in with some vanilla, kind of adds to the balsamic sweetness as well. So it's a nice kind of almost like spicy, resinous, balsamic style of fragrance with a little kiss of some vanilla just to kind of soften the edges, not to make this too dark, deep, and rich. It just adds just a little pop of some sweetness just to kind of round things out, and absolutely gorgeous style of fragrance, but like I said, not going to be for everybody. And this is a certified beast fragrance. Projection on this for the first 2-3 hours is quite loud, and this lasts on my skin 10+ hours. Get some on your clothing, you're definitely going to have to wash it. So if you're looking for a bit of a unique style of fragrance that's close to that Amouage Interlude Man style of DNA, you definitely want to check this one out. That's Lattafa's Anfas Oud. All right, next up, going to the Lattafa Pride line series with Lattafa Pride's Art of Nature 1. Now, this fragrance is a twist on the Maison Crivelli's Oud Maracuja, and absolutely, I love this fragrance. A recent pickup, I've talked about this a couple times recently, but it's just because it's such a good fragrance. Really nice kind of fruity style of opening, has some black currants, some fig, and this deliciously delicate sweet plum that comes through. Absolutely gorgeous fruity style of opening with just a little bit of this kind of fresh spicy rhubarb. And this nice kiss of some rose. Now, this rhubarb does start to get a little bit aggressive after a couple minutes, but it does settle down at about the 10-15 minute mark, and it just adds a really nice fresh spicy profile, a little bit of a green snappiness to that fruity accord, to that soft kind of sweet style of rose that comes through. And it's just an absolutely beautiful fragrance. But just be warned, like for like about 10 minutes there, that fresh rhubarb could be coming a little bit aggressive, but it does settle down. Then you get some more leather that comes through. You get this nice vanilla that works its way in, and this beautiful, sweet, kind of dark, rich oud that works its way in there. And in the dry down, you're left with like this oudy style of leather with like a nice sweet accord, some darkness, almost like a resinous feel. Nice soft kiss from this rose that comes through, adding some sweetness, kind of pulls in that fruity sweetness from that top, and you get a nice little kiss of vanilla that wraps around it, making this just a sophisticated, elegant with this kind of masculine lean going on to it that I absolutely love. And the performance on this is pretty good. Solid 2-3 hours worth of projection, and it does last on my skin for 8 to 10 hours before it fades into a skin scent, and then it does linger for a while as a skin scent at that point. Get some on your clothing, you're gonna push that well into the next day. So if you're looking for a nice kind of rose, leather, oud style of fragrance that has a little bit of a fruity kiss to it and a nice kiss of vanilla, you definitely wanna check this one out. That's Lattafa Pride's Art of Nature 1. All right, next up from Lattafa, we're going with another hidden gem in my opinion, and that's Lattafa's Al Awsaaf. Now, this fragrance is a certified cheapie, can be a little bit hard to find, but it is available. I got the link down in the description and talked about this a couple times recently because it's just an absolutely beautiful fragrance and kind of a twist on one of my other favorite fragrances, the Viktor & Rolf Spice Bomb Extreme. That was a bit of a mouthful, I stuttered over that. Awesome, awesome fragrance. Has that very similar spice profile that goes on in that Spice Bomb Extreme. Pink pepper that's in there, a little touch of some violet, has some like resinous, spicy style of myrrh. Adds a bit of a balsamic sweetness. That pink pepper has that sweet kind of fresh spicy aspect to it, and there's this beautiful tonka that comes through with this fresh spicy cedarwood as well, forming that kind of woody base with a nice kind of dry dusty tonka, mixing with that balsamic sweetness, those nice spices from that pink pepper coming through, a little bit of texture from that violet as well, and it's just absolutely a gorgeous fragrance. A little bit sweeter than the Spice Bomb Extreme, and it has a little bit more of that balsamic touch going on to it, but as you get towards the dry down, it becomes more and more like that DNA, and I absolutely love this one. Just beautiful, kind of like masculine, has this boldness to it, but also has this kind of mystique and allure to it at the same point that I just can't get enough of. And I think bang for your buck, like $15, $20, this is a steal of a deal when it comes to this scent DNA. Performance on this pretty good, about an hour and a half worth of decent projection and about 7 hours worth of longevity off skin before it really fades into a skin scent. So if you're looking for a great interpretation twist on that Viktor & Rolf Spice Bomb Extreme, you definitely want to check this one out. That's Lattafa's Al Awsaaf. All right, next up, going back to the Pride line series with Lattafa Pride's La Collection d'Antique 1505. Now, this fragrance is a twist hybrid in the same neighborhood as kind of Tom Ford's Cherry Smoke as well as Lost Cherry. Not a one-to-one of either of those fragrances, but it's definitely going to remind you of those fragrances. Definitely has some overlaps, and absolutely beautiful kind of cherry style of fragrance that really transitions into quite like a dark, rich, deep, woody style of fragrance. Absolutely love this one. Opens up with that sweet, tart style of black cherry, a little bit of osmanthus coming through, and a little kiss of this leathery style of saffron, but it's really about this cherry. So a really realistic black cherry, sweet, tart note that comes through. Get that osmanthus, adds kind of an apricot fruity sweetness to it, a little bit of a green floral touch to it, and just a little hint of some spice, just to kind of darken things up with that saffron. As this opens up and develops more, you do get a lot more kind of resinous balsams that start to come through. You get this kind of sharp, fresh, spicy style of cypriol that comes through, and it mixes in with this really nice kind of deep, rich, dark, almost like hickory smoked style of woods that is absolutely beautiful. Very warm, very cozy, kind of has this bold masculine vibe going on to it with just a little kiss of those fruity notes sitting on top of this one. Just an absolutely gorgeous dry down on this one. Really transitions into more of a woody profile as you get to that dry down. Really fruity in that top, but very dark, rich, woody. Like I said, kind of has a smokiness to it, a resinous feel to it, and this balsamic sweetness that mixes in with those fruity sweet accords. Just absolutely beautiful. One of my girlfriend's favorite date night fragrances and one of my favorite fragrances that I picked up this year. And the performance on this, pretty good. Projection is decent for the first 90 minutes or so before it does settle back in, but longevity on this is fantastic. I'm getting 10 plus hours off my skin, no problem. And it just lingers and lingers and lingers as a skin scent after that point. Get some on your clothing, you're definitely gonna have to put this through a wash cycle. So longevity on this is fantastic. Projection on this is moderate and absolutely worth checking out. That's Lattafa Pride's La Collection d'Antique 1505. All right, next up, going with a classic from Lattafa, and that's Lattafa's Bade'e Oud Amethyst. Now, this fragrance is a twist on the Initio Atomic Rose, and for all my regular viewers out there, you will know that I'm very cautious of rose fragrances. They come across a little too floral, a little bit too kind of grandma's perfume style of fragrances for me, but this fragrance is definitely one of my top rose fragrances because they just absolutely nailed it when it comes to this one. Really nice kind of Turkish, Bulgarian style of rose that comes through. Very jammy, sweet, thick style of rose that has a nice pink pepper that mixes in there. Little kiss of some bergamot in the opening, but it's really about that kind of spicy, sweet, jammy style of rose in the opening. Absolutely a gorgeous, gorgeous rose fragrance. There is this little kiss of oud that comes in from the base that's just kind of adds to some sweetness to it, adds a little bit of kind of a dark, rich deepness to it, kind of giving that rose an additional kind of thickness and jamminess to it. And as you get towards the dry down, really takes on a bit more of an ambery texture, it gets more warm, a little bit more cozy, and it just has an additional thickness that works in. But through and through, this is a very kind of sweet, thick, it's kind of semi-spiced style of rose that comes through with a little bit of oud and that amberiness that comes through, and it's just absolutely a beautiful rose style of fragrance. A unisex fragrance for sure, but I definitely think dudes can pull this one off, and in fact I think it leans a little bit on the masculine side just because of that spice that comes through, a little bit of that ambery oud that comes through as well. I think this lends itself to the gentleman a little bit more, but definitely a unisex fragrance and a great performer. I get solid 2-3 hours worth of projection off this one, and this lasts on my skin for 10 plus hours before it just kind of lingers as a skin scent for a long time after that. Get some on your clothing. This definitely has to go through the wash cycle to get that fragrance out. Beautiful performance on this, a great smelling rose fragrance, and definitely worth checking out. That's Lattafa's Bade'e Al Oud Amethyst. All right, next up, going back to the Pride line series with Lattafa Pride's Art of Arabia 3. Now, this fragrance is a twist on the Dolce & Gabbana's One Luminous Night, and a very unique fragrance, not going to be for everybody because there's a lot going on in this fragrance, and I just really enjoy this one in the cold weather. It has a nice mix of some sweet accords, some fruity sweetness, some like floral sweetness that's going on, some nice kind of balsamic touches to it, nice kind of roasted tonka, some amberiness, and some earthy woody tones. Just an absolutely beautiful kind of artistic style of fragrance. Opens up with some really nice kind of sweet, spicy accords. Got this balsamic sweet touch. It has some Divana, has this fruity date note that's in there. You get little wisps of this kind of almost churchy, incensey olibanum that comes through, just adding a little bit of mystique to this, mixing in with those sweet accords, that fruity sweetness, that balsamic sweetness, and just a really kind of delightful, sophisticated, kind of opulent style of opening. As this opens up a little bit more, you get some tuberose that comes through, adds a bit of a bubblegummy sweetness and the soft floral touch, and it runs up against this kind of fresh, spicy style of resinous myrrh, this nice earthy tobacco that comes through, a nice smooth sandalwood as well. And as you get towards the dry down, it really starts becoming a little bit more earthy as some patchouli comes through with that tobacco, adding that kind of that bold masculine edge to it, but it still maintains some of that tuberose, adding that soft floral touch to it, mixing it with some fruity sweetness, some like resinous, fresh spiciness, and through, it's just an absolutely gorgeous, unique, artistic, like I said, sophisticated style of fragrance that I really enjoy, but not going to be for everybody. But the performance on this is fantastic. I get a solid 1.5 to 2 hours worth of projection, and the longevity on this is 8-10 hours before it fades into a skin scent, and it does linger beyond that. Get some on your clothing. This will last well into the next day. So if you're looking for a very artistic style of fragrance, a very unique blend of some fruity sweetness, some floral sweetness, some balsamic sweetness with some nice fresh, spicy, earthy, woody profiles, you definitely want to check this one out. That's Lattafa Pride's Art of Arabia 3. All right, next up from Lattafa, we're going with one of my favorite gourmand fragrances, and it's Lattafa's Khamrah Qahwa. Now, this fragrance is a flanker and a twist on the original Lattafa Khamrah, and that fragrance is a twist on the By Killian Angel share. So this one's kind of twice removed, but absolutely love this fragrance. It's a little bit different than the Lattafa Khamrah because it adds this additional coffee note to it, which I find just adds a little bit more kind of a masculine edge to it. And I just find myself reaching for this over and over again because it's absolutely a delicious style of fragrance. Opens with this really nice warm cinnamon. It has this vanilla that comes through, the candied fruits, a little bit of a white floral, and this delicious kind of roasted gourmandy style of coffee note. There is a little fresh pop of this fresh spicy ginger that comes through. It just kind of adds a little bit of personality to it, but it does quickly fade, and this really turns into a kind of a warm, cozy, alluring, inviting style of fragrance. As it opens up a little bit more, you get this nice creamy vanilla, this like silky thick style of vanilla, and this like little hint of some benzoin that comes through, just adding to that sweet profile, just giving it that additional warmth. There's some amberiness that comes through as well, wrapping around that coffee note, some of that kind of candied fruit, white floral aspects to it, and that beautiful warm spicy cinnamon that's in there. It just makes this an absolutely delicious kind of warm, cozy cafe style of fragrance, like sitting in the back reading a book, just all comfy in your nice sweater type of fragrance that I just reach for all the time in the cold weather when I'm looking to feel delicious. Performance on this pretty good. I get a solid hour and a half to 2 hours worth of projection. It does last on skin for 7-8 hours before it kind of turns into a skin scent. Get some on your clothing, and that definitely pushes off beyond then. So if you're looking for a really nice gourmand style of fragrance with a little hint of some coffee that's in there, just giving it that little bit of a masculine edge, you definitely want to check this one out. That's Lattafa's Khamrah Qahwa. All right, next up, we're going with a very unisex style of fragrance, and that's Lattafa Pride's Nebras. Now, this fragrance is a clone of Eilish from Billie Eilish, and like I said, this is a very unisex fragrance. Some would argue that this is definitely more feminine, but I wear this fragrance. I think most dudes out there can wear this fragrance because it smells absolutely delicious. But if you're looking for a gift for your lady as well, like my girlfriend wears this occasionally, and I absolutely love it on her because she just smells like a vanilla covered chocolate cake with some red berries, and I absolutely love it. Opens with some really nice some red berries that come through, so it has this nice fruity sweetness, little touch of this kind of sweet citrusy mandarin as well, but quickly you get this cacao that comes through, adding a chocolatey sweetness to it, kind of a darkness, a richness to it, and this like thick, creamy, delicious, like sugary sweet vanilla icing that works its way in, almost like a vanilla whipped cream that works its way in there, and it's just absolutely gorgeous, like desserty, rich, sweet style of fragrance that is absolutely perfect for the wintertime. Just has a very kind of sexy, like intoxicating, alluring style of scent profile, and if you're into very gourmandy style of fragrances, you definitely want to check this one out. And the performance on this is fantastic. Solid 2-3 hours worth of projection on this one, and I find this lasts on my skin 10+ hours before it really fades into a skin scent and just kind of lingers after that. Get some on your clothing and you'll definitely have to wash that shirt. So like I said, very unisex fragrance. I definitely think dudes can pull this off. If you're looking to smell like a rich dessert, you definitely want to check this one out. That's Lattafa Pride's Nebras. All right, last, but definitely not least, going with Lattafa Pride's Natural Oud. Now, this fragrance is still a hidden gem in my opinion. People are definitely not giving this enough attention, and I think they should because it's a beautiful winter fragrance. Some have said this is a clone of Paco Rabanne's 1 Million Golden Oud. I don't necessarily see I see some overlaps. It's definitely not a one-to-one. I'm still not 100% sure what this is trying to clone. Comment down below if you have some suggestions, because it's still a little bit of a mystery to me, but fantastic fragrance, let me tell you. Red fruits, saffron, nutmeg, little kiss of some rose in the opening, so you get some nice fruity sweetness coming through, really nice spice profile. Little kiss of this kind of this jammy style of rose that works in really well with those red fruits and just contrasts off against that saffron and that nutmeg really well. Little hint of some jasmine, adding a little bit of a soft floral touch to the edge, and you get this kind of deep, sweet, almost resinous style of oud that comes through with this cedar wood, just forming this really nice kind of dark, rich, woody style of base to it with that additional sweetness. Absolutely gorgeous, like I said, sophisticated, kind of almost regal style of centicord that starts to come through. And in the dry down, you get a little bit of benzoin comes through, adds almost like a bit of a vanillic spice to this one that works in really well with that fresh spicy cedar. You're still getting some of that sweetness from that rose, some of those red fruits coming through, playing in with that kind of dark resinous style of oud that's there. And through, this is just an absolutely beautiful, dark, rich, warm, kind of alluring, intoxicating style of fragrance. It's, even though I've said oud a few times, it's not a very strong oud fragrance, so it's not like an oud dominant fragrance. It's not your typical oud rose style of fragrance. It is a little bit subdued. It adds more kind of a darkness and a depth to it. It's more about that kind of fresh cedar that comes through, this amberiness that comes through, kind of like almost a soft creaminess with that wood, mixing with that red fruit and that additional spice. So it's not a rose oud fragrance as you would typically find in Middle Eastern fragrances, but absolutely delicious style of fragrance, and the performance on this is fantastic. Solid hour and a half, 2 hours worth of projection, and I'm getting 8 to 10 hours worth of longevity off my skin, no problem. And this does linger and linger as a skin scent after that 10-hour mark. Get some on your clothing and it lasts well into the next day. So great performing fragrance, beautiful scent profile on this one, perfect for the winter, and definitely worth checking out. That's Lattafa Pride's Natural Oud. All right, so there you have it. That's 10 of what I consider the best Lattafa fragrances for the winter time. But I want to hear from you guys. What are some of your favorite Lattafa fragrances to wear in that cold weather? Comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. I love getting your different recommendations, your hidden gems, different taste and scent profiles. Appreciate you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.